All right, for the third part of 1.2, we're going to talk about vertical stretches and shrinks to functions. If you have a graph, y equals a times a function, okay? A is the number that will show out in front of the x or in front of the absolute value or in front of parentheses, okay? It's a number out front, which is the same place where the negative for reflection goes, except the negative would be then in front of the a. We do a stretch if that number is greater than 1. It's when it's going to stretch farther closer to the sky or farther away from the x-axis. So right here, this shows the function f of x when there's no stretch and shrink. So the blue one is it's stretching closer to the sky. Now it's a shrink if a is between 0 and 1. Notice a is never negative. The negative just deals with reflection. It is not the stretch or shrink portion. So if a is a decimal or a fraction, that's between 0 and 1, it's going to flatten out and get closer to that x-axis. Okay? And notice this has a multiplying a function. So when we get to number 5, which is writing out the stretches and shrinks, we want to write a function g whose graph is a vertical shrink of function f by a factor of 1/3. So I'm going to take function f to get my function g. I want function g of x. It is 1/3 times function f. All right, so g of x equals 1/3, and function f was 4x plus 2. I'm going to distribute the 1/3, so I get my g of x equals 4/3 x plus 2/3. So there is my function g. That is a vertical shrink of the function f by a factor of 1/3. So for b, I want to write a function h whose graph is a vertical stretch of function f by a factor of 2. So 2 times function f. Okay, so that gives me h of x is going to equal 2 times 4x plus 2. So h of x is going to be 8x plus 4 once you distribute that 2 to both things. All right, now number 6, so that number 5 was linear, okay? Number 6 is doing the same thing, only it is to absolute value, okay? So we want to write a function g is vertical stretch of the graph f by a factor of 5. So g of x is going to be 5 times f of x. Whoops, forgetting parentheses there. So it gives me g of x. So I have 5 times the absolute value of, and I should put this in parentheses here, so plus 2. All right, when you multiply that absolute value bar with x minus 1 inside, the 5 only ends up out front. You don't multiply the 1 inside. So it ends up with 5x minus 1, but you still had to multiply the 2 that was just out at the end times 5, so it's going to be plus 10. So think of the absolute value as, that the bars with the x minus 1, think of that as just think of it as x. So you multiply that term, it's one term, so you multiply that term by 5, and then you multiply the plus 2, which is a different term, by 5. Okay, so write a function h that is a vertical shrink of graph f by a factor of 0.25. So we're going to take 0.25 times the function f. So function h is going to be 0.25 times the absolute value of x minus 1 plus 2. All right, so again, when I multiply the absolute value bars, that 0.25 stays out front. And then when I take 2 and I times 0.25, I get 0.5. All right, so now I want you to do number 17 and 18 in the practice